Okay, let's get started then. So welcome to this final session of the day for the 2021 Careers Open Day, sponsored by Ocado. I'm going to be introducing three gents from Capgemini, Jamie, Aberdeen and Sahil. I'm going to talk to you about analytics and AI, as you might well have guessed from the titles on the screen. As for the other sessions, if you have any questions during the session, submit them through the Q&A functionality, and I'll be feeding them back to the team, the presenting team, towards the back end of this presentation. So I'll hand over to you now, Jamie, and away you go. Thanks.
Perfect. No, thank you very much, Jen and Gavin, and thanks everyone for joining. My name is Jamie Martin, and I'm part of Capgemini Invent, and we actually all sit within the analytics and AI practice, which is probably a lot closer to what you guys are doing in your degrees, given you're here at the OR Society event. So we're going to give you a bit of an overview of what we do at Capgemini Invent. We're going to talk a bit about our area of the business, as we talked about analytics and AI, and then our graduate scheme. So I'm sure a lot of you are here interested in the graduate scheme. We do offer experienced hire roles too. So if you are someone that's studying a PhD or you've got some work experience, that would also be a good option for you to look into. We're not going to go into as much detail about that today, but feel free to put a chat in with me on the portal, and we can talk about that too. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of a short skills session, and then some questions obviously at the very end. So it might be quite a packed agenda, but we'll try and get through it as quickly as we can. So first thing is kick-off and welcome. So the first thing just to say about this is apologies to Aberdeen. We were a little bit late putting these photos together and we haven't put him in, but he is the third member of our team and is also a consultant. And I'll let him give a first intro.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Jamie. As mentioned, is my camera on? Let me just put it on quickly. Yeah, so afternoon, everyone. My name is Aberdeen Sadiq. I'm a consultant at Capgemini Event. I came through the grad scheme as well, so I guess I'll be quite well versed in terms of the questions you guys may have. I sit within the data science practice within analytics and AI, so I have more focus on, of course, like modeling and the cloud platforms such as AWS. So yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Sahil, you want to go ahead?
Sure, Jamie. Hello, everyone. My name's Sahil. I recently joined Capgemini Invent just last February. I'm currently within the graduate scheme, and I'm set to join the analytics and AI practice. As I'm sure I'll explain later, you join the academy a bit later when you're on the grad scheme. Jamie?
Cool, perfect. Yeah, and yeah, finally, I'm Jamie. I, as is the other two, joined through the grad scheme, but I have been here the longest out of us three, I think. So I joined in April 2019, so 2.5 years here, and sit within analytics and AI, also within the what we call AI dev team, which is more to do with data science and actually kind of getting hands-on and doing programming, as well as doing consulting stuff as well. I've done a range of projects while at Capgemini. I started off in retail, I went into utilities, I had quite a long stint in the public sector, and now I'm back in retail, which is where I'm happy to be and hoping to stay there. But yeah, you get quite a broad range, and I'm sure in the questions at the end we can talk a bit more about our own experiences and our projects. So that's the host for today. We're now going to go through an introduction to Capgemini Invent. I'll be taking the first few sections, and then Sahil will be taking the last few. So what is Capgemini Invent? So some of you may have heard of Capgemini. We are quite a big company globally, but maybe we're not quite as big in the UK as some others. But Capgemini as a whole is a huge company. There's 270,000 people, over 50 countries, and essentially they do a bit of everything in technology and business. So I mean, I'm not going to read this entire paragraph, but we do everything from kind of IT support to data science to strategy consultancy to business side to kind of outsourcing. We have a big team in India who obviously deal with a lot of the kind of outsourcing stuff, and we work with quite closely. And we've got big teams in most of Europe, America, and basically all around the world. It's a very big company, lots of different parts of it. We are actually representing Capgemini Invent which is like a sub-brand, and it's a little bit separate from the rest of Capgemini. The point of Capgemini Invent is to kind of be our leading light in consulting and these kind of big name, big projects that we can work on where there's a bit more of a consulting side to it. So maybe we're doing strategy, or maybe we're doing more data science consultancy. But essentially, yeah, we're kind of trying to be the first face, the kind of big brand in Capgemini. So we're a bit smaller. We've only got 10,000 people overall. There are now 1,000 in the UK. We recently had a celebration for that. So definitely quite a big company still and growing very quickly. But we're a little bit more focused on the consulting side and than the rest of the business. So yeah, Capgemini Invent, this is our tagline: by combining strategy, technology, data science, and creative design expertise with an inventive mindset, partner with our clients to help to innovate and transform their business, helping to navigate today while plotting course to the future. So hopefully that entails all the things I just said in the last slide. So yeah. So how does Capgemini Invent split up into various sub-teams, sub-units? So we've had a bit of a change recently. We actually bought another company called Frog. And Frog, we're still kind of integrating into the business, but at the moment we've got these 3 sections of Frog. We've also got a section called Intelligent Industry. And then finally at the bottom where we sit is within Enterprise Transformation. So this is, as the name suggests, or there's a bit of a spelling thing there, but as the name suggests, we're trying to get companies that maybe they're not quite up to date with technology or the latest working methods, things like agile, maybe using cloud services, etc. We're trying to bring them into the future and take them on a journey, give them new technology, introduce them to ways of working, and bring them into the modern age. So there's a few different teams working within there. You may have some interest in some of the other ones, but we are representing analytics and AI, which, as the name suggests, is all data science, analytics, etc. But there are some other areas that might be somewhat interesting for people who are studying operational research. Business technology, for example, is not too different. So we work across essentially all clients, all areas of business. As I mentioned, I've been in retail, utilities, and the public sector. But we also do a lot of work in financial services, actually, quite a bit of work in telecoms, and also if you're from an engineering background, you might be interested in the kind of, we call it MALS, manufacturing automation, automotive, and life science. So there's a lot of different work going on, and you'll get the opportunity to do essentially anything you want if you do join and specialize eventually. So now I'm going to talk a bit more about where we sit in the analytics and AI team. So I told you about this diagram. So we're on the bottom right here as part of the enterprise transformation. And so analytics and AI is all focused on data and analytics, but we're split broadly into 3 different groups. So there's AI advisory, AI development, where myself and Aberdeen sit, and AI services. Actually, which one are you in, Sahil? I can't remember.
I'm currently set to join AI dev as well.
Okay. Very AI dev heavy then. So yeah, the way these split is kind of AI dev is the data science heaviest as well. If you do think I want to get a lot of data science skills, maybe you don't want to necessarily be a data scientist or software engineer, but you want to get some of those skills, you want to work with data, you want to be hands-on, then you go into AI development. AI advisory has kind of 2 sides to it, the way I'd see it. There's the side of kind of strategy of AI and operating model, whereas this is how you kind of want to plan out how you're going to deliver something, how you're going to put together an AI project, what's kind of the plan for it. You have to think about things like AI ethics and digital ethics and kind of the questions behind the work and the programming and how you actually want to implement it. And then the other side of it is, once you've got that strategy and you've implemented it, how do you tell that story back to your client and make them realize that you've done a really good job and show them the numbers the KPIs, the key performance indicators that tell them that you've changed things and you've made things better, which is where visual analytics and storytelling comes in. So if you're in that team, you're probably an expert on visualizing things on dashboards or pulling out key numbers and statistics. And you've probably got a little bit more of a creative side that some of the other people don't have, like myself. And then finally on the right here is AI services. That's a little bit more to do with looking at the way that businesses are already working and how they kind of do their operations or how they target their customers, and trying to make that more AI driven and data driven. So for example, you might be doing things like supporting teams to take up marketing platforms. So like you might have heard stuff about search engine optimization and how some customers, some companies will use really high-tech methods to get their advertisements out there, like targeted adverts and getting their names to the top of the Google search. So you might be involved in kind of plans for that and how to kind of get all that stuff that you've been building and package it into a service and sell it on to a company for things like analytics and advertising. So in this area, you'll have a bit more collaboration with other teams, and you might be a little bit more specialized into a certain area, like possibly in retail, for example. So that's a little bit about how we split up. I'm now going to talk a bit more about what we do in diversity and inclusion within Capgemini Event, before Sahil will take it and talk a bit more about our graduate program, which he's obviously going through himself. So active inclusion. I guess the first part I would say from my background and from joining is that Capgemini Event really does make a big effort to hire people from all backgrounds. I mean, just by noticing the people that join every graduate scheme, you can tell that compared to some companies, we really are getting a big mix of people, all backgrounds. We're also trying to get a bit more of a range of universities. Some places are very, what's the best word for this? A little bit picky about what unis people come from, and they only take people from Russell Group or maybe their sets of targeted unis. We're trying to move now to a more course-based approach and not a uni-based approach. So we want people to be doing well because of the course that they're studying and the things that they show us in the interview, not because their uni has the right name. So we really are trying to kind of break down that barrier a bit and bring loads of people in who may not have had the same chance at other companies. But there's kind of 5 key lenses that we've got on active inclusion that we have lots of internal initiatives around. There's obviously gender. So we have a Women at Invent group, multiculturalism and social mobility, where we've got things like the Race and Equality Network. We deal with a lot of that stuff and making sure that everyone from all backgrounds feel kind of comfortable and that they can be themselves at work. LGBT, we have a team called Outfront, and they've been around, I think they've been around quite a long time now, I think 5 or 6 years, making sure that everyone's represented in terms of their preferences in that sense, and so that we've got a lot more visibility of the stuff that's going on and giving people support there. And then finally, we've got also support on disability and mental health. We've got a lot of mental health champions throughout the business who you can just go to and speak to whenever you need to. I think my headset might be running out of battery, so I might, if you lose me, please let me know, Sahil Aberdeen. And yeah, so as I mentioned, here's some of the different things that we've been doing recently in some of the groups. So I mentioned there's Women at Capgemini and there's Outfront. One thing we've found is that we've definitely got good recognition. We've been Times Top 50 Employer for Women for 3 years in a row, and Stonewall Top 100 Employer for 3 years in a row as well. For 4 years in a row here. So we're obviously being recognized for what we're doing. Social Mobility Index, we're very high on as a tech organization. We're #1 in the country. And essentially, there's a lot of different teams going on. There's regular catch-ups and things going on with the various teams and initiatives. And I'm not as close to them, so I can't give you the perfect description. But I do know that there's a lot going on. If you do want to find out more, feel free to get in touch, and we can link you to the right people. We've got some links here in the deck as well. But more than happy to speak about that afterwards. And yeah, finally here is kind of, this is our proposition that we've had kind of from the top down to make sure that from leadership all the way down, we have a plan and a proposition on how we want to make sure these things work. So kind of starts off with a main strategy, and you want to champion women and promote diversity and inclusion. And it goes all the way down to the bottom. How are you going to actually do it in terms of surveys, engagement, retention, and what are the kind of key blocks of it? So things like maternity and expanding that program, mentoring, etc. Cool. So hopefully we're still running okay with time. I'm going to hand over now to Sahil, who's going to talk a bit more about the Accelerate program.
Thanks, Jamie. So we had a question recently about a graduate scheme, and if you're a graduate or you're considering like a sharp career switch, then this is the program for you, for sure. Next slide, please. So throughout this program, it's 21 months long, and the idea is that by the end of this program, you'll be an experienced management consultant at CAP, and you'll have all the skills you need to be able to develop on your own and fully understand what it means to be a management consultant. We do this through like a number of ways. We supply a support network. So as a graduate, if I have any problems, I always have a lot of people I can talk to, like my personal development manager, and also my institute manager, which I'll get onto later. We also conduct, like, often there'll be performance reviews. At CAP, we have a very big culture around feedback and gaining feedback, and always trying to improve yourself, improve the way you like to do things. Because at the end of the day, you want to be the best version of yourself. And then the Accelerate community. We have quite a big grad community. It's a lot of fun to be able to go on like socials with other graduates, hear about things that they are having trouble with, things that they like, hear about other sectors that they are working in. That's always quite nice. And throughout this like 21 month program, you'll be able to carry out a lot of these things, but I'll go into more detail on the next slide. So you can see here, it's sectioned out. So the first 3 months is the institute. Now, this is something I was on fairly recently, having joined back in February. And this is where they provide intense coaching, and they give you all the kind of core skills that you'll need to be a management consultant. And this is all about being faced with a problem. They'll give you a lot of like mock kind of a task to do, and you have to work in teams, sometimes on your own, to try and solve the problem, whether that be making a presentation or be making, in one scenario, I had to make like a functional like Excel file with like buttons. And then another time I had to make a strategy proposition for potential partners for the graduate recruitment. It can really vary. Sometimes it will involve your specific CU. It's like for me, sometimes it would involve data, but sometimes it won't. In order for you to just fully understand all areas of the business. And then this kind of part of the business, part of the Accelerate journey really tries to prepare you for the next section, which is the foundation. So this is when you'll go on to an actual client, and it might have something to do with data. It might not. In my case, it did. My first client was a large consumer electronics retailer, and I basically got to have a look at all of their data and help them look at how they want to change their stores to the future, how they want to change their store network, how can they best supply the products to their customers, what do their customers want out of their business, really. And they really seek to understand that from their data. And throughout the foundation period, you're given a lot of support, a lot of leeway, because we understand that you're not going to really know how to be a proper consultant. It's like a trial and error type system, where you really have to put yourself out there and try and succeed. And you'll get lots of help from like project managers and lots of kind of coverage, I guess. And then there's this last section, which I'm just moving into. I'm 9 months in now, and it's these. It's called the skill academies. So this is where I get to move into proper data science stuff, because that's what I signed up to at first. Yeah, so with that, I get to, for my one, I'm moving into AI development, like Jamie mentioned earlier. And I'll get to do data science courses. I'll get to do one of these professional qualifications, and I will be able to fully like engage with like any number of training courses. I'll also be able to go on more specific client roles towards like data science. But if you've joined a different capability unit, let's say like Frog, it might be more to do with creative strategy and less so to do with data science. And that's the like journey in a nutshell. And what at the end of that journey, you go from associate consultant to consultant, and you're fully able to kind of do what you want. You don't have to like stay within these barriers, I guess. You can kind of go and join another CEU. You can move to another sector unit, and you can, by the end of this 21 months, you really, or at least I'm 9 months in. I feel like I know so many people already, but by the end of 21 months, you can use your network to really do kind of whatever you want to do within CAP. Next slide, please. So this is just, I guess, after the institute, in the foundation period, you get support within a work stream, develop business knowledge, learn new skills, and you can have any number of roles. So operating model consultant, communication consultant. I guess I had data scientist, but you can be like a data analyst, business analyst, which I actually am right now within the public sector. Any number of roles you can end up in. Next slide. But now I'm going to take us through the application process real quickly, because I know that some of you want some tips and everything. So first I'm going to go through the application process, and then I'll give some of my own personal tips for it. So your application starts with online applications. So it will be a CV, a cover letter, and then we'll ask like a number of questions. And these are just written questions, just for us to be able to kind of get your personality a bit, understand who you are as a person and how you approach certain scenarios. Then we have a specific type of way we like to assess our candidates, and we call this like a strengths test. So we really want to know what, unlike with usual companies where it's about competencies, we want to know what your best strengths are. And the how this test works is that it'll give us a list of your core strengths and what makes you, what areas you are really strong in. And then this is followed on by the digital interview. So this is a one-way interview. This really helps us to get a bit more personality. So really just go ahead and talk. That's what I did. I just kept talking in that interview, and just try and like show your own personal side. Because as a consultant, it's a very sociable job. And so you really want to try and show your own personal side. And then there's a final virtual assessment center. So this is a number of things occur. It's like about half a day long. It'll start off with giving you information on CAP and the grad scheme and what you could be joining. Because at the end of the day, we want to make a decision about you, but you should also be making a decision about us. Are we the right fit for you? So definitely we try and first we give a bit of an informative session, then you have like a group session with one of the grads, and you can ask them any questions you want away from any HR people. And then this is followed on by a one-to-one interview. Now this interview is a strengths type interview where it's very much we just try and deduce your strengths, see how you interpret the questions we asked, and then at the end of that, and then there's also a case study session, which is just a group case study session to see how you work in a team to solve a case study. And then if successful, and we hope you are, you'll be able to join the team. I think they get back to you usually within like a week or two, because we don't want to keep anyone waiting. And we always try and give feedback. That was one of the best things I found, is that I got loads of feedback on my interview. And even though I got an offer, it was great to hear that like I had lots of like constructive criticism and a lot of like things they thought, hey, you should have done this, or hey, this is what went great. This is probably what got you the offer, but you almost missed it with this, which was kind of daunting when I heard about it. But I appreciated it a lot going into the job. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, application tips. So avoid lift and shift applications. Don't just copy and paste. Really try and understand what CAP do, because we do things quite a bit differently from a lot of consultancies. And so really show understanding about what CAP do, and try and be show your side, show how you understand our values. Network using social media. So yeah, we're doing a lot on social media at the moment. There's a lot going on within CAP. We're expanding quite fast at the moment, and we've acquired a lot of new companies recently. Learn about them, learn about what we want to do in the future, because we advertise that a lot. And then our current recruitment methodology. So we don't use competencies, we use strengths, and that's something we're very big on. So know what your best strengths are. And then this next point, give examples of when you've demonstrated these strengths, because that will really help you. Because then at the end of the day, we want to hear about your strengths, but we want to hear about examples of when you've used them, the cool things that you've done throughout university or throughout your life so far. And then lastly, be proactive. Don't just wait for like a job or program. We like people that go out and try and upskill themselves outside of work and really try and develop themselves, even if you're not trying to do it for a job, because being proactive really shows, and it's something we really like as a company. We like proactive people. And next slide. Okay, so you can learn more about our different entry routes through this QR code. I'll probably stay on here for about, let's say 10-20 seconds, Jamie. And then, yeah, you can basically see all the different entry routes we have. So you can join through a number of capability units, which is more about the type of work you will do. And then you can join through some sector units. Let's say you only want to work in public sector. You can join through that sector unit, and you will probably only work in public sector. Okay, next slide. We'll probably go back to that at the end if anyone missed it, but you can easily find all the links if you go to our website, Capgemini, simple Google. So now I'm going to take us through a skill session. Now this is a skill that is like very much, it's a simple skill, but I feel like it's something that a lot of people like, you can get really good at it, and you can use it to your advantage. And in management consultancy, it's a big thing. Next slide. So, and that is presentation skills. Now, in the institute, this is something in the institute, it was very intense. The first 3 months, they were very much like trying to hammer down how you should go about presenting and how you should keep your client informed. So next slide. So I'll go. A presentation is the process of presenting a topic to an audience, and it's usually around informing someone or persuading someone of a certain point. Next slide. Now, both that and problem solving are essential skills for management consultants at all levels. If you're great at both, you'll find a lot of success in consultancy. Next slide. But whatever the context or content, to be successful in management consultancy, you need to strive to tell compelling stories. You want to be persuasive. You want to be memorable, because that's how your client will really start believing you. Next slide. So we separate this out into 3 main categories. So first, preparation and creation. So audience analysis. No, I'll go into them later, actually. And then delivery. Next thing, setting the ground rules for your client. What do they expect out of you? And then I can't actually see this. Follow up. So outstanding questions. Almost always they're going to have more questions afterwards, and make sure they know what's going on with you next. But I'm going to go into detail on the next slide. Next slide, please. So this is the audience analysis and prepositioning. So are you presenting a new idea? If you are, you don't want to just be jumping in straight away. You want to be like introducing the idea slowly. Do you know who you're presenting to? Are you presenting to the CEO? He doesn't want to know all the technical details. He might just want to know high level stuff. And yeah, are they familiar with the subject already? And then before presenting formally, you should really know who's going to be attending that presentation, and ensure that you know what their expectations are. And that goes on to my next point. Next slide, please. So next top tips for preparation, knowing their expectations is one of them. If you see in the bottom right, stick to the agenda. I'd say knowing that, making sure they know what you're going to talk about. But then top left, close Outlook and Skype. You don't want like notifications coming up during this presentation. And then setting up before and testing. You don't want tech problems. I think I've always had tech problems, even though I love tech. It's always going to happen. And then also thinking about the space in which you're presenting. So a lot of this is being done virtually at the moment. So thinking about in the virtual space, there's not as much to think about, but also if there's a lot of people on the call and it's going to need something where a situation where people need to participate, that can be quite daunting. So you might want to have less people rather than more, have like spread out the sessions, which is something I've done before. Proofread the content. Please do always proofread the presentations you make, because that really makes the difference. Like having something that with no spelling mistakes is just always needed. It just helps your client really. It makes sure that you don't lose your client really. They know that you've put in a lot of work. And then agreeing who will present what. So if I'm presenting with someone else, them knowing what I'm presenting, making sure there's no clashes, making sure things go smoothly. And then I've already said the next point. We go next slide. Now, top tips for delivery. So I feel in consultancy, everyone has their own kind of style. And I think really bring your personality in, bring your style to life, be sociable. When you're working with clients, you really want to know them as like a person. You don't want to be like monotone with them. You want to be relatable. And then also taking time to pause. So pausing around key points, that can be really, really powerful. And especially when you're delivering like, I don't know, a final presentation to your client, and that might result in more work. Definitely learning how to use pauses. This is something I'm still learning how to do, but definitely something I want to get good at towards the end. And then be aware of your body language. So hand gestures, that sort of thing, like having good posture, and also like lighting, making sure the lighting is good and everything. Next slide. And then, yeah, that kind of wraps it up for our presentation. Are there any questions? Next slide, Jamie.
Okay, thanks, Sahil. Great stuff there. There have been a few questions been popping through the Q&A, but Aberdeen's been doing a sterling job of covering them off so far, so hopefully they've all been answered. Hopefully the three of you are still there. Question I've been putting to the previous talks is tell us a little bit about your favourite projects. What have you enjoyed doing most so far?
I don't mind starting on this one. I think my most enjoyable project at the moment is the one I'm currently on. So this is like a large scale like data science project. So I'm mainly involved in like the feature engineering side of things. So this involves like using a lot of like Python and SQL. I think the reason why it's most enjoyable is because it's the kind of one, it's in the field I kind of enjoy, kind of coming from the grad scheme and stuff like that. It's quite technical, and it gives you a lot of like engagement with a massive team and a lot of like important stakeholders as well. So I say that's my favorite work I've done so far.
What area is it in?
Oh, it's within the public sector. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
What about-
for me, I think my first project in retail, it was for like a fashion retailer. And it was a very, very short project. It was like 2 or 3 months, and it was only 5 or 6 people in the team. But it was just very cool because it was firstly my first project, so I was brand new to everything. And in such a small team, you end up doing a lot of different things. But what the project entailed was that this company wasn't very good at ordering the right amount of stock. They would overorder and end up not selling loads of things, and that would cause problems. And if you've got loads of stock that you're not selling, you're not only just wasting money, you're also hurting the environment and not really benefiting anyone. So what we did is we came in and we did a very technical machine learning solution that would analyze new products. So a brand new product would come out, we'd have pictures of it and some details about it. And we'd want to find out, okay, well, how many do we think it's going to sell? And how do you do that if it's a brand new product? Well, what we did is we compared it to all the old products that they must have sold in the last 5 years. And so we built an image processor that would take the images and find similar images to match them together and see what's close. We'd do a machine learning model to just generally look at all the stats and attributes on the product and maybe what material it was made out of or what sort of shape it was in, and compare those. And so essentially we'd get a brand new product, we'd find all the similar products in the past, and based on that, we'd be able to predict how many items we think would sell. And it was a really cool kind of, high tech, you felt like you're cutting edge. But also my role was just so varied and did so many different things because it was a small team. So I mean, I did some parts trying to design a front-end website. I did some parts in a workshop with the clients, trying to get exactly what they wanted from the product and make it look right for them. I had some parts when I was like a project manager and I was kind of making sure that everyone was following the right rules in the team. We followed something called agile methodology, which you'll learn about if you do consulting, which is the way of working in a team that's a bit more fluid and iterative. But basically I just did loads of different things. It was a really cool project. The work was interesting and the team was really nice. And so, yeah, I think having kind of short projects that come and go can be quite exciting. Especially back in the day when you could go into the offices and travel. But I'm sure we'll be able to do that again soon. But yeah, that's my one.
And I guess one from me, one I mentioned earlier, my first project was definitely really, really exciting. One with a large consumer electronics retailer. And basically we got to use their data to help them like understand what their customers want from their stores. Do they need big stores, small stores? Where do they need them? What types of like electronics do they need in each store? And I got to lead the customer experience work streams. And the reason I liked it so much is because I was given so much responsibility early on. And I got to understand what different regions of the UK like what kind of things do they care about in terms of feedback. Did they most complain about wait time? Did they complain a lot about stock availability? Did they complain about prices? Some of the trends I noticed was that like London, they complained a lot about having to wait or any stock availability, but in the north it was more about prices and that sort of thing. And it was just generally quite cool to be able to jump straight into data science, really, because that's definitely something I wanted to do.
Great. Another one, which I'm not sure you covered before, but do you have offices across the UK? Where are your staff based?
Yeah, so we have our main office in London, in Holborn. But we do have starting from now, we're starting to get a few graduates based in our other offices. I think we've got 4 or 5 more around the country. I think there's one in Glasgow. There's one in, sorry, I think it's Edinburgh actually. One or the other, sorry. One in Manchester and one in the Midlands. It's, I forgot the name of the town, but it's in Shropshire, I think. And one in, what's the one where we did training, Sahil? Near to where you live.
In Woking?
Yeah, there's one in Woking. I think there's one in Worthing as well.
Yeah, there's quite a few around. And so we're starting to now have a few graduates based in other ones, but once you get to a more experienced hire, you can be based in any of the offices. But the majority of our graduates are based in the London office. At the moment, though, obviously people are working from home, so it's majority are based around, but obviously longer term, if you're based at an office, you do need to stay somewhat close to that office. So if you're going for the graduate schemes, most likely you end up in London. In terms of the actual work though, and traveling for the work, we don't obviously do much now, but I would say when I joined in April 2019, by the time the pandemic hit, so about a year, maybe within a year, most of my graduate intake of 10 people had been on a project away somewhere. I didn't actually, I'd stayed in London the whole time, but some people went abroad, some people went to Scotland and to Somerset. So in a non-COVID world, you would be able to travel with the job, but it's not a necessity. And obviously things are kind of getting back into shape of COVID. So if you don't want to travel just yet, that's probably still fine.
Great. Well, I think we've covered all the questions that we've had in. I don't know whether if give final chance for anybody else to submit anything else that they want to ask, or if any of you three guys wants to add anything else. I'll just mention briefly the platform that you've hopefully all been using during the day to arrange things. That's available, continues to be available through the day, and access to that is closed off tomorrow. So if there's material or links or whatever you want to save from that, download from that, copy from that, please make sure you do that before tomorrow. Okay, anything more that we want to add, guys?
I think if anyone's interested in the experienced hire side as well, if you do have if you're studying for a PhD or if you've had a few years of work experience, feel free to reach out. I can definitely guide you on that too. It's a bit of a different process, but it's a bit more fluid. Obviously, it's not, you're not going to go through a set scheme. You're going to just directly join us in the analytics and AI team. So yeah, I'm sure some of you might be in that position. So just drop us a message on the platform.
Super. So finally, let's thank Jamie, Sohail and Aberdeen. They stepped up and took a slot at the very last moment, so we thank them very much for doing that. Good reactive consultancy work there. Thanks to everyone that's taken part in the activities during the day. Hopefully you found them successful, and there's plenty more material for you to look at on our website. Lots of old talks from previous events too, if you want to follow up some of these things further. So wish everybody the best for the rest of the day, and see you soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.